This is Harry Livingstone. We met briefly when you were on the committee. If you've got a couple minutes, I need to clear up a couple questions. Robert Groden and I work together, and I don't know if you've seen our book. We need to know. This is Harry Livingstone. We met briefly when you were on the committee. If you've got a couple minutes, I need to clear up a couple questions. Robert Groden and I work together, and I don't know if you've seen our book. We need to know exactly what the chain was with regard to the pictures coming over to the committee from the National Archives. I talked to Blakey, and he said to speak to you that you would know how you happen to get that particular set.
Well, you mean the set that we published in the volumes?
Yeah, that's it. The one that were traced.
What do you mean that were traced?
Well, you didn't publish the actual photographs. They were drawings, or tracings made from the pictures.
Right.
Was it you that contacted the archives, or Burke Marshall, or how did that happen?
Well, I'm sure we contacted Burke Marshall.
Blakey says he had nothing to do with it.
I'm sure we contacted Burke Marshall, and he okayed it.
Well,
I know I talked to Burke Marshall a couple times, and I can't remember whether then he contacted them or then I contacted the archives. I mean, I was in contact with the archives and with Burke Marshall.
All right, well, this is what we've found. I've had extensive interviews with Stringer, the medical photographer, and numerous others that were at the autopsy, and they absolutely insist that the pictures are totally fake, that they have nothing to do with what they took. And what we've determined is that there's apparently two sets, that they show that there's a set that shows a large hole with no scalp right over the very back of the head, and then the one that you published, see? So apparently what's being presented for the public, what the committee presented for the public consumption is the fraud, and that there is another set.
The archives is accurate?
Pardon me?
You mean the stuff in the archives is accurate?
Well, we're going to try to study it, because one set has the signatures of Stringer and Boswell and Humes, and the set that you had did not have those signatures.
Right, but what I'm asking is, so you're saying that the photographs in the archives are real and what we have are not?
They've got two sets. They're presenting one set to one group of people and another set to another group of people, and what you were given were fraudulent. See, if you had, let me ask you one question, and I'll explain something to you about the x-rays that you showed them to a couple radiologists, presumably. But if you had gone to a radiologist and had them interpret that, not knowing who it is, they would have told you that the whole face is blown away on the right side in the x-rays. There's nothing there. And in the photographs of the body, there is no damage to the face. So there's several different proofs for what we're establishing. In some of the photographs of the back of the head, you see that alleged entry wound in the colic area. In other of the photographs, it's not there. In the set that they didn't give you to the committee, there isn't any scalp in the back of the head at all. See, and when Boswell and Humes told the panel that wound was 5 inches from where they placed it in the report, what they were trying to say was that there wasn't any back of the head there. So I don't know if you saw all the people from the autopsy that were on that television show at KRON in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
O'Connor and Reeby and Custer and so on. You saw that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, you know that they have stated that these materials are phony.
Well, that's not the way I heard what they said, but...
They stated it very plain language, it's fake. Quote Reeby, he said it's phony somehow. So why did you not show these pictures to Carrico and Jenkins and Perry when you went to see them?
What did we show them?
You didn't show him anything because...
Was Perry the guy in Seattle?
No, he was at Cornell, Cornell Medical Center in New York.
I thought we had a notebook with photographs and x-rays.
Seattle was Carico, I think.
Right. We had a notebook with photographs and x-rays that we took.
Oh, you did? But there's nothing in the transcript. They weren't looking at it. See?
What transcript?
In volume 7, you've got...
Those,
pardon me?
I thought I read interview reports of those meetings.
Well, yeah, in volume 7, you've got reports of those interviews, but there's
What
nothing...
transcript are you talking about?
You have reports. In some cases, it appears to be a transcript with Carico, Jenkins, and Perry. I'm speaking of the Dallas doctors. See, the whole point is that the medical witnesses from the autopsy are describing basically the same wounds that were seen in Dallas. The only trouble is that not only do the photographs not show that, but some of the photographs are incompatible with other photographs, and they're all incompatible with the x-rays. That's what you didn't do. You didn't go to an independent doctor and have them interpret that stuff for you. See, now the Maryland authorities are working on it now. One state policeman homicide investigator said that every one of the pictures has been tampered with.
Pictures or x-rays?
All of the photographs have been tampered with, according to him. Now, O'Connor told me the other day that at least...
the x-rays have been tampered with also?
Yeah, they're completely fake. See, my original person who originally told me about all this is a chief radiologist in Baltimore, and we grew up together. We went to college together, and when he saw these, he started to laugh at the x-rays that you have in volume 7. And he also trained at Bethesda Hospital.
Right. What about the people that we took him to that said they were fine?
Because they didn't know.
We had Lowell Levine check out the dental stuff to show that, I mean, it's definitely Kennedy.
It's all faked. The pictures, the point is that it's, you know what, you're a lawyer, right? It's prima facie. See, if one picture doesn't have something that another picture has, if the focus is incorrect in one part of the picture and correct in two other parts of the picture, see, in other words, if it's in focus at the far part of the picture and in the near part, but if it's out of focus in the center, you know, then it's a fake.
What?
All of the material that you were given was forged, and what I'm trying to do is establish just in heck how you pawn this off on the committee, pawn it off on the public. Where did you get it? Who gave it to you? Did somebody go from the committee over to the National Archives and somebody there hand it to you?
Well, I think with that kind of characterization, there's no point in continuing the conversation.
Well, Andy, wait a minute.
You start talking about us pawning off stuff.
Committee did.
If you want me to take a polygraph, that I am absolutely convinced that this stuff is accurate, I'll be happy to do it.
But all right, but listen, don't get mad, all right?
These kinds of comments to me.
All right, Andy, look, don't get mad. The point is that when the men from the autopsy said, and you know what they're saying, you heard it on television. But now I've talked to Stringer. When Humes and Boswell did their damnedest to tell that panel of doctors that there was something seriously wrong with those pictures.
That's not what they were saying at all. It is not.
Well, then why did you, whoever wrote it?
It's not susceptible to that interpretation.
It is when they repeatedly said that the entry wound in the photograph was nowhere near where it was when they saw it and where they placed it in the autopsy report.
That's not what I understand they said at all. And you also recall in the testimony of Humes in the public hearing what he said.
In the public hearing, he retracted.
Well, it was part of the public hearing. I mean,
but with the kind of pressure that those men have been repeatedly under over the years.
Yeah, but you're saying they were looking at the doctored photographs. Why would there be anything to retract? He was describing what he saw in that photograph that you claim was fake. And he couldn't even describe what was in the photograph that you claim to be faked.
They tried. If you read the transcript in volume 7, when Humes and Boswell were in the room with the panel of doctors, they tried as best they could to try to say something, but they were never really given the opportunity. All right, let me just go back to square one here. When there's two directions that we're approaching this from, and I can tell you that the authorities in Maryland are involved. The photographs, certain of the photographs are quite clearly incompatible with other of the photographs. Secondly,
well, I've never
all the photographs.
Just a second, I've never heard or seen anything that supports that.
Because you didn't know how to look at the stuff. The people that you went to, the so-called panel, and don't get angry, but I'm telling you that they missed it.
Yeah, but you also looked at the interviews with the people from Parkland, and what was the fundamental problem? What did all those Parkland doctors say? What did they say on the KRON thing?
They weren't. On KRON, they describe wounds that are not in the pictures.
Right, but what was the other key thing? They all said that Kennedy was lying face up, and they never turned him over, never picked up the head. Right?
Now,
That's
in Dallas, well, that isn't true, because I conducted many extensive interviews with them in Dallas, and of course they picked it up. They shined a flashlight into the head. There was a lot of record of that, of testimony of that. Before they all, how could you say that when they all described a large hole in the very back of the head to the Warren Commission?
See, that was what the anomalous thing was. And when you look at the interview reports I wrote up, and the thing that was unbelievable was talking to those Parkland doctors.
Yeah, but
and they said there was a giant hole in the back of the head, and they described it, and they never talked about picking up the head, and they just, the guy would point and say, there's the body.
You only talked to three doctors. I've talked to...
Just a second.
All right.
See, the guy's lying there, face up, and he's sitting there pointing to me in my presence, saying, I could see from right here a giant hole in the back of the president's head. Mm-hmm. It was impossible.
Well, no, you didn't. I don't want to get into that, but I will show you a paper on exactly what they did see and how and who did it. In other words, some of the men did not see the back of the head because they were looking straight down on the face, and they saw no damage to the head in Dallas at all. And yet,
except it was
the
all
others
bloody on the top of the head.
Pardon me?
Except the top of the head was all bloody.
You mean on the crown of the head?
Well, I call it the top of the head. I don't know what a crown of the head is.
Right. No, the head was picked up, and quite a few of the doctors examined it. See, some came and went, but they did pick it up and look at it. In fact, they did it about 3 times, on 3 different occasions. And they studied it, and that was the basis of all their reports to the Warren Commissioner and their medical records, saying that the back of the head was gone. Now, the key thing here is that at the autopsy, they described the same wound. See, Stringer told me that the only part of the head that was missing was the very back of the head, but it was completely gone. He said the scalp was very badly macerated. There was no possibility of any flap being pulled over to cover over the back of the head the way that picture shows.
Stringer didn't tell me the photographs were faked.
Well,
that's why we called all these people in, was to check that very point out. We knew all those theories when we were investigating that. God knows we wanted to find out that stuff was faked.
Well, I'm telling you that you're really up against it now, because it wasn't...
I'm not up against it.
Yeah.
I'm fine. If you prove that it's false, I don't care.
All right.
I mean,
so
we set out the best we could to try to find out if it was fake.
All right, well then just try to help me out in terms of trying to find out who handed those pictures to you.
I don't remember.
Because I'm telling you right now that we have marshaled a lot of authority to prove it indisputably. In fact, at this point, there's no question about it. The police here are helping out in a big way in terms of finding the witnesses for us and everything else.
Well, I hope you have more success than everybody else has had.
Well, yeah, you and me too. But I'm just asking you, as for your own benefit, not to just dismiss lightly what we're saying. I know that you feel that...
I see no benefit or potential harm to me from this.
Yeah.
So...
No, the point is that, just don't dismiss lightly when we're trying to tell you that the weight of the evidence now is to the effect that I'm presenting to you, but I know it's hard to take because you worked hard on this case. And
that's not why it's hard to take. That's not why it's hard to take, because I interviewed all these people for exactly this purpose, and I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, I hope you're right. That would be terrific news.
All right, well, look,
You're right.
could you try to, can you remember exactly, or who would know how the pictures happened to come over? You talked to Burt Marshall, right?
Yeah, I talked to Burt Marshall a couple times. And I talked to those people at the archive. I guess Trudy Peterson's the main contact.
Trudy Peterson?
Yeah, and she was special assistant to the archivist.
Marion Johnson?
No, Marion Johnson is not the archivist. The archivist is like the top person of the archives.
The boss.
Trudy Peterson is special assistant to that person. Marion Johnson was head of a section within the archives.
He was specifically in charge of the JFK collection.
Yeah, he may have been in charge of things in addition to that, but so he was a subset, down below the archivist.
Mm-hmm.
Trudy Peterson was the special assistant to the archivist.
So you think that she was the person who?
Well, it was. We had to make the formal requests to those people. I think the language of the grant from the Kennedy family said that congressional investigations could do it. I'm pretty sure we had a letter from
Marshall.
I guess it would have been Lou Stokes at that point making the formal request.
Huh.
And I know we dealt with Burt Marshall on the question of how to make public the information in a way that didn't totally piss them off.
Mm-hmm.
And with the exception of one photograph, we made the drawings that accurately reflected the photographs that we had.
And which is the exception?
It was the real bloody photograph of the top of the president's head.
Well, I don't think there was any representation of that in the published work, was there?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, you didn't do anything with it?
No, that was my point. That was the one he didn't want us to do. But under your theory, that doesn't make any difference because that's, fake photograph anyway.
Well, no, that one, it doesn't happen to be one of the ones that we believe is fake.
Well,
If we're talking about the same picture, it's hard when we don't know.
Clearly the top of the president's head.
Yeah.
You're saying it was a gigantic hole in the back also.
Well, the picture of the top of the head, would you say that there was bone missing in that picture or
The
not?
big skull piece that was missing, they found on the street and brought back.
And you think that was from
at the autopsy and established that had come from the head.
Oh yeah, but I mean, are we talking about the occipital area or the temporal area? Parietal
It's
area?
the part that you think is faked.
That's the occipital.
It's not the back of the president's head.
So you think that there was a piece of bone that was brought back? You're not talking about the Harper. You're not talking about the Harper fragment.
Probably.
Okay, because that had been fairly established as being occipital bone, but of course, it's always in dispute.
Well, when you look at, how do you make just one question? How do you make your theory consistent with the drawing of the autopsy? Is that fake too?
Where he said missing?
The entrance wound was?
Well, I've accepted in my own mind. I've accepted that I think that the top of the head is missing, but Stringer insisted to me that it wasn't.
I'm talking about the entrance wound. Well, when he saw it, it may not have been. The entrance wound in the top of the back of the president's head.
They all denied that there was any.
The entrance wound that we show in our photographs.
Pardon me?
The entrance wound in the back of the president's head that we have in the sketch of the photograph.
Yeah.
At the upper point.
Every single witness denies that there was any such wound, and in other of the photographs, it's not there. It's only in the one photograph that you made the tracing from.
Well, it wouldn't be. The other photographs are a different perspective.
No, there's some that are quite close to it, that the colic is quite clear, but there's no wound there. See, it's only in the one picture that you were given.
But in that picture, just so you know the dynamic, you have that point which is clearly an entrance wound, whether it's faked or not, it's clearly an entrance wound. Then you have the point at the lower end by the hairline, the little piece of brain tissue or something.
Right.
That was the big fight with Humes.
Yeah, I know. They insisted that was the entry.
Yeah, he thought that little flap exterior to the hair was actually the entry. When you're dealing with
Well, to be honest with you, some of the men from the autopsy are saying there really wasn't any entry wound at all back there, and that they fudged that.
I understand you're saying that. What I'm saying is, Hume was saying that thing on the exterior to the hair
Right.
was an entry wound when it obviously was something exterior to the hair. That was the big battle, the big embarrassment.
Yeah, whether or not it was brain tissue extruding through a little hole there, or just dripping there.
That was an entrance itself, and not something extruding from the hair.
Right, that it was just, it dripped down there from...
That was the big battle.
Yeah.
In the public.
Yeah, but you see, the autopsy report placed the entry wound at that point where that little brain tissue is lying on top of the hair. Pardon me?
Down at the bottom of the hairline?
That's where the autopsy report placed the entry wound.
That's not where the autopsy drawing placed it. The autopsy drawing placed it exactly at the upper point. I mean, it does. Clearly knocked down by the hairline.
Well, there's such a serious problem with the report because we know that they made up certain things, like the throat, the whole thing about the throat wound, and that they didn't even know that that they had a hole in the throat, whether it was an entry or an exit. But they didn't even know that. They made it up later after they called Dallas. See,
Right.
after they didn't have the body. Now the men from the autopsy are saying that they made up the whole thing about the entry wound, and Stringer's insisting that the top of the head was perfectly intact. To me, and he insists.
When we showed him the photographs, he didn't say they were fake.
Stringer?
Yeah. I interviewed Stringer.
I don't find any record where. Do you remember? Is it in 7?
I really don't remember.
Well, and you showed him photographs yourself to Stringer, the medical photographer. Because what we've come to, as I said at the beginning of the discussion, is that some of the men have quite clearly been shown two different sets of pictures.
You mean they've been shown different sets of photographs?
There's a photograph that shows nothing in the back of the head. The bone and scalp is gone. See?
I've never seen that photograph.
I know. That's the point.
Well, who would have showed them that photograph?
That was the... Pardon me?
Who would have showed them that photograph? You said they've been shown two different sets of
Only a tiny fraction of people. It appears that Boswell, Humes, and Stringer were shown that picture in 1966, and that McClellan, Delaney, and Peters were shown that picture a year ago.
By whom?
Nova. Walter Cronkite, that show on television a year ago. But
you're saying Boswell and Humes are saying that photographs that we showed them didn't reflect the wound?
Boswell and Humes said that in their interview with the doctors before your committee, not the public hearing.
Yeah,
remember the
that you ought to show it to me, because none of us ever got that impression. Could have made a mistake. But
all right, just can you hold it a second? I'll read it to you. This is from Volume 7. It says the panel continued to be concerned about the persistent disparity between its findings and those of the autopsy pathologists, and the rigid tenacity with which the prosecutors maintained that the entrance wound was at or near the external occipital protuberance. Subsequently, however, in the testimony before the committee, they agreed that the defect was in fact in the colic area. Now, that's almost 5 inches, and the Clark panel years before commented on this, that the wound was almost 5 inches. It was at least 4 inches from where the autopsy report placed it when they examined the photographs.
Right.
Okay, but what everybody missed was that the x-rays, that the wounds in the x-rays are 100% incompatible with all of the photographs. See?
Okay, but all our people...
Everything is wrong. Pardon me?
All our experts said they matched.
Well, you figured out who got you your experts, because, I mean, you know, Baltimore is a great medical center. I grew up with practically a platoon of guys who became doctors. And I mean, at this point, the whole country's ridiculing it.
saying the entrance wound near the colic area does not correspond to the entrance wound in the X-ray.
Right.
Really? God, it sure looked like it to me.
But see, the big thing is that the whole face is gone in the X-rays.
Well,
the orbit is gone, the eye is gone. There's no vertebrae in the skull, you know? See, the mandible is gone. The right temple, the forehead, and the whole orbit is completely missing in the X-rays. See,
so
and this has been commented on.
You're saying is that's a faked X-ray?
Yes, both of the pictures.
So that one's fake, plus the one that shows the entrance wound in the top of the back of the head is fake.
Right, and perhaps 3 pictures, according to O'Connor, 3 of the pictures are fake, and according to the homicide investigator for the Maryland State Police that has looked at this, all of them are fake or have been tampered with. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but when you look directly at the photographs, I mean the actual prints, you can see a bunch of little scimitar-like marks all the way around in what Grodin called the mat line. But there's quite clearly a composite made there. See, there's a whole lot of reasons why these things are fake. It's not just the testimony, but it's the fact that certain things are incompatible from one photograph to another photograph. So, what we're trying to get at now is trying to establish that they have been showing 2 different sets. In other words, Warren, they flashed some pictures at Earl Warren. What we think happened was that when they had access to the Zapruder film, and they thought that his face was blown away, so they faked the X-ray. In other words, they made a composite X-ray and blew somebody's face off, or a corpse's face off in that area, in order to make this picture. O'Connor and all of them say, no, the brain wasn't surgically removed from the head. It was just, much of it was just simply blown right out of the head.
Yeah,
and that's the way they received it.
You know, the exposed brain in the Zapruder film, from everything I can tell, corresponds to the photographs and X-rays that we have. It's exactly where the wound appears to be.
Yeah, but Andy, what you missed, I saw what you had to say on Carol-Ann, but the point is, in the X-ray, that whole part of the face is gone, and in all the photographs, there is no damage whatsoever to the face. In addition, the medical witnesses 100% describe no damage whatsoever to any part of the face. See?
Right, but in terms of the giant damage that you see in the Zapruder film, that corresponds to the photograph of the giant damage to the top of the president's head.
Well, that's the problem. First of all, the giant damage may not, a lot of it is sunlight reflection. Part of it is a reflection off that flap over the right, just above the right ear. That's sunlight reflecting off of that, and a lot of the rest of it is the pillbox hat that Jacqueline was wearing.
It looks like where the Harper fragment came out.
Well, the doctors who examined the Harper fragment, you must remember this, that they all said it was an occipital bone, which is a different thickness.
Well, yeah, I'm always worried about people's visual perceptions.
Yeah, well, the different bones in the head actually have different, to a certain extent, different thickness and different texture. So, the thing that appears to be quite definite at this point is that some of the pictures are fake, and that the X-rays are fake, and that they are incompatible with one another. We're getting just total unanimity from the witnesses on this.
Did you talk to the radiologist that we had look at them to see if they were fake?
What was his name?
I don't remember his name offhand. I think he was a big person.
I haven't talked to, see, the whole point is that approach, and don't be offended by this, but if they're given pictures that are composites, that are somebody else's, and if they don't know what to look for in a forgery, a radiologist is not going to be able to detect a forgery, see? But if you'd asked them, what's this big hole here in the face in the X-ray, they would tell you there's no face here. All the bone, 100% of the bone is gone in this area.
But the whole face is missing.
No, in the right, it's completely surrounding the right eye, including the right eye. See, we're talking to the medical witnesses, all right? Just the doctors, just the people from the autopsy, and that's what they're telling us. They're looking at these pictures and they're laughing at them. See? So, of course, we've always had a question, why didn't the committee show the doctors the pictures? Say, why didn't you get all the people together from Dallas and Jacqueline and from the autopsy together in a room with this stupid evidence that was used to trick Earl Warren and a couple of other people at the time so that they wouldn't realize that there had been gunmen in front of the car. I mean, do you accept that there was a gunman on the grassy knoll?
There may well have been. I think if there was one, he missed.
Well,
I certainly didn't believe that before I started the investigation. Didn't believe that they missed, but it certainly looks to me like they did.
at the time you thought that he had hit.
Well, I also didn't believe the single bullet theory before I started the investigation.
Yeah.
Now I don't think there's any other possibility of what happened. I thought Starlin's Inspector was a lying sack of shit that could never pass a polygraph on the question. Now I believe it. Now I'm more than willing to take one I was always afraid to ask him to take.
Yeah. Well, you read Dodd's addendum to your report where he says that there had to be 3 gunmen. Implies that there had to be 3 gunmen firing.
Well, of course, if they're 3 gunmen, it seems pretty crazy they'd be trying to doctor the photographs and x-rays after the fact, but...
Well, that's what happened.
Well,
see.
I hope you can prove it.
I think we are proving it.
I hope so. You know, the thing that you didn't experience was, when we did take the photographs and x-rays around to all those doctors you talked about, was the sensation.
You took them around in a you had a complete set of the color pictures or
notebook.
The notebook.
Copies of them and copies of the x-rays.
But see, there's no comment on those pictures in any of those transcripts or reports in Volume 7. There's nothing. I mean, I've been all through that with a fine-tooth comb. See, somebody should have asked them, is this what you saw?
We did ask them that. That's what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not kidding you when I say it. And it Perry's one of them, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that he's lying face up, and, you know, I'm standing here, and I could see this big wound in the back of the president's head.
Yeah.
And they each said that from different vantage points around the table, but they would be there. So you were standing there 15 feet away, and the body is lying there face up, and you're telling me you can see a hole in the back of the president's head.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you, I went to Dallas. The Baltimore Sun sent me to Dallas just after the committee report was issued. And I began a series of interviews, and then Ben Bradley Jr. helped me, working under my direction with the team. And we talked to pretty much almost all of the medical witnesses. And there isn't any question but that not all the doctors saw it, but that they saw that there was no back of the head. But see, don't forget that this is what they saw at the autopsy. That's what's become confused. The autopsy does have a lot of valid information in it, and all the men are insisting now. I mean, you saw the Caro, and maybe you saw the British Independent Television, Central Television in London and all that, but they all describe no back of the head. We're talking about the men from the autopsy.
Yeah, but Boswell and Humes agreed that the photographs looked the way they remembered it.
Well, they under intense whatever.
No, you're talking about in terms of the entrance wound in the back and the confusion about the flap wave.
Yeah.
But in terms of the big hole, the top of the president's head, they all agreed that that's where they saw it.
Well, no.
Well, that's what they agreed to me.
Well, finally, for public consumption in the public hearings, they said one thing. But the point is that what was described in the autopsy report and what is described now by the men at the autopsy all completely corroborates what the Dallas doctors wrote down and said at the time, that there wasn't, that the hole was in the back of the very back of the head.
You're saying that the autopsy doctors now disagree with the drawings of the photographs and say that those aren't the way the wounds looked. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I haven't talked to Humes in Boswell because they won't talk to anybody. I mean, I've been on the phone with Humes for as much as an hour and a half, but I can't get straight answers from him. But basically what he indicated to me was that no, the photographs are not accurate. And what he certainly was saying, and you dispute this, and that's your privilege, but what he said to the panel of doctors before the committee was that that entry wound was nowhere near, both in the x-rays and the photographs, where they had placed it at the autopsy.
Right, so that what he was saying now was that it was different than he wrote it down at the autopsy, right?
In the pictures, it's quite different.
Right.
See, but the Clark panel pointed it out, that it was different. Many people pointed it out.
Yeah, well,
but see, what you don't want to lose sight of is the fact that all these other medical witnesses from the autopsy are also corroborating Dallas, also insisting that there was no scalp and no bone in the back of the head. See, and also they're coming out and point blank saying these pictures are fake.
Yeah. Well, the dynamic that I don't think you realize in terms of maybe you do is the way it must have been at Dallas. That if one assumes for a second.
But don't try to isolate Dallas from Bethesda. What I'm telling you is that Bethesda is corroborating. These witnesses are saying the same things that were seen at Dallas. I mean, I know that there was such a crisis in that half an hour in Texas. I understand that, but the point is, I have spent a lot of time with Gieske and many of these other doctors, and they describe in very finite detail picking up the head, shining a flashlight in it, and describing that hole. And a whole lot of doctors and nurses saw it.
But did they also describe the hole at the top right of the president's head?
They didn't even see this.
Did they only describe one large hole?
They only described the hole as big as your fist in the very back of the head, below the colic area, including the colic area and below it.
You're saying that what looks like a giant hole in Zapruder that looks like it corresponds to the photos and x-rays we had.
I'll tell you what that is.
Because it really looks like it matches it.
Okay, in the photograph the tracing, let's go to that one that you did of the back of the head. You see the little flap over the right ear? That's, Jackie closed that up. See, that's what you see in the Zapruder film. Brain pushed out of there, see? Jackie closed it up, and nobody saw it in Dallas. But it wasn't connected with the large exit wound or the large blowout in the back of the head.
See, what I assume is that they didn't see the hole higher up in Dallas either.
On the top of his head?
Right.
Oh,
no,
they
not
all?
the top. The entry wound that appears in the
colic area.
Sketch, right.
No, nobody in Dallas saw anything like that because...
That's right, but you're saying they also didn't see the one lower down at the neckline, which you say did occur.
All right, and O'Connor and all of them are insisting that the reason why nobody saw an entry wound in the colic area is because there was no skull there. There was nothing there. See? They've stated it in those words, basically.
Well, a lot of people that looked at the Zapruder film, I think, disagree with you in terms of the amount of damage it shows on the right top of the president's head. But I think that's going to be...
That's where the conspirators made their big mistake.
That's going to be where you have one of the real tough areas because it really looks like it matches exactly with the photographs we got of the president.
No, because the photographs, you've certainly seen these now published, if you don't remember them, but the photographs of the face have absolutely no damage whatsoever.
Right, well, I don't think the Zapruder film shows damage to the face.
Well, but that's what the x-rays show, see? Well, but the Zapruder film appears to show the face blown away in that part, in the right eye.
But it doesn't, you don't see skin on an x-ray either. And you've got the possibility of the scalp being, laid back over the hole. But nobody saw, well, I think there's one large hole. And you obviously know where I think it was. But I hope you can, get Humes and somebody can subpoena Humes and Boswell because...
Yeah, no, I'm going to talk to him.
These visual recollections of these people. What I was going to say is in terms of Dallas, he's generally lying face up. Under my theory, the photographs we have, there's this gigantic hole, scalp, brain tissue, blood, all this just gook mess, which is pouring down onto the table. So people are looking at him lying face up, and the top of his head down to the table is just a bloody, gooey mess. Even if they picked him up, there would still be blood and brain and all that stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think that was the real problem in perception as to exactly where it was. Plus, it wasn't their job to figure out where it was. And you didn't find the report where we asked Stringer about the photograph?
No, if you could try to remember where. Do you think it's in volume 7 somewhere?
I don't know. It's been so long. The other guy you might ask about is Mark Flanagan.
Do you have his phone number handy?
789-7553.
789-7553. Great. All right, if you're interested, I'll keep you appraised. I can tell you that there is on the QT something of an investigation here because the state of Maryland has authority over what might have happened at Bethesda in terms of crimes having been committed, even though it's a federal reservation. And we're getting quite a bit of assistance. But at this time, I mean, you can, I started the conversation with this, but you can think it over. But the weight of the evidence, the gist of things, the direction of things is it's accepted at this point that all of this material is phony.
Well, I'd be happy at some point to look at it. That's certainly not the impression I got from the KRON thing, that anything that they were saying was particularly in disagreement with the conclusions. Or, anything that's not within the parameters of the problems of visual perception.
All right, well, why don't I send you transcripts and a briefing stuff. Do you have a mail address or something?
Yeah, he sent my office, U.S. Sentencing Commission.
U.S. Sentencing Commission?
Right.
Wait a minute.
1331 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest.
Okay.
Suite 1400.
Wait a minute.
Zip is 20004.
20004.
And what's your name again?
Harry Livingstone. Okay. So I'm going to send you along some of the testimony of all these people, and then you can just decide for yourself. I don't think I'm going to convince you too much, but what you need to do is on your own, if you know a radiologist, is just any old radiologist, is just to go and take the copies of the x-rays to them and ask them to interpret it for you. And then,
well, I mean, if you can find the report of the radiologist we did take that stuff to have them interpreted.
well, I know that you did all that. I mean, I know that the committee went to panels of experts and all that.
You talk about people in Maryland who are...
Yeah, but see, the point is that they don't, I mean, any doctor, any ordinary nurse will tell you that the x-rays show that the vertebrae isn't in the skull, that the mandible is gone, that there's no way to identify those pictures as belonging to Kennedy or anybody else. There is no way to authenticate any of these photographs.
I thought the autopsy x-rays had the teeth in it.
Well, if not, not really. I mean...
Well, the ones we had did.
Yeah.
That's how we verified them.
Yeah.
We verified the authenticity of them through Dr. Levine.
All right.
And we got the, as you probably know, we got the dental records from JFK Library. So you may want to have somebody who checks, is an expert in doctoring x-rays in other ways that, explain how technically you could do it to have the real teeth, but everything else fake.
Yeah, they did it. They did it. See, the thing, what you overlook in all this, it's like any bureaucracy, really. But what you overlook all this is just common sense. See, the pictures show the face is gone. There is not one iota of test. I mean, excuse me, the X-rays.
The face is gone. The point is, you got to remember their skin is over those bones, so the bones could be gone, but the skin can.
No, there's no way. This face sags. There's no way. And I mean, see, it's just a matter of common sense. If the photographs don't show any damage, but that's not. See, you have to take the weight of all this when you've got many witnesses who have now viewed these pictures and ridiculed them, who saw the body. See, I didn't get involved in this until I went to Jacqueline Kennedy's staff to the people in the Kennedy family and so on, and said, is this right or isn't it right? What happened here? See, but I checked this from scores of angles. But, you know, you can't go to some panel that doesn't really know what to look for. Point is that if the photographs are incompatible with each other, if some of them show this so-called wound in the colic and others of them don't show it in the photograph, if the autopsy doctors went to great lengths at one point to say that the entry wound was not there, when the Clark panel under Lyndon Johnson said that entry wound had moved more than 4 inches from where the autopsy report placed it, you know, you have to add all this together. There's something funny.
But if they're altering the photographs, why would there be some photographs that show a wound and some that don't? That would be
That's the
ridiculous.
point. Where there are two different sets. That's what we're trying.
Well, you're not saying in the set that we have, some show.
The set that you published, that the committee put out, is the phony one.
I understand you're saying that, but you're not saying that ours are internally inconsistent.
Yes, they are.
And what I'm saying is, if they're faked, why would they allow them to be internally inconsistent? Why?
They made mistakes. These things were rushed out in 1963. They began spreading these things all over Washington. And I worked for Joe Tidings. Thomas Gervasi, do you know who that was?
Yeah.
Well, he was a famous editor. But he was actually a brigadier general the whole time he worked for Random House and all that. He was in military intelligence. He had a set. A lot of people had sets. And the point is that they spread this stuff out, going to Earl Warren with it and everybody else, and it's phony. See, it covered up the fact that the president was riddled with bullets.
Well, I hope you can prove it.
Well, I think we have proven it. What we're doing now is we're trying to nail down the people that are in a position to plant this stuff on your committee, fool you, fool everybody. See, I know it's hard to swallow. I mean, you used to believe this stuff, and maybe you ought to think about going back to believing it, because, you know, I mean, you don't know me particularly, but I'm telling you that stuff is phony as a $3 bill.
Well, I'm a big believer in evidence and the weight of evidence and circumstantial
All right, well,
evidence.
the weight of the evidence.
When I see it, I'll change my mind, but I haven't seen a single iota that demonstrates it's not authentic.
Yeah. To trying to present you with a case so that you'll know in your own mind where we're at.
Okay, and I'll tell you what the flaws in it are if there are any.
Sure. Oh no, I mean, it's not airtight at this point, but it's I would say it's pretty convincing.
Yeah, what's your phone number?
It's 752-1012.
At DC or Maryland?
Maryland.
Local?
Yeah.
Okay, good luck.
All right, well, thanks a lot. Yeah, bye.
Message 1:08:40 p.m. May. Message 1:08:40